Alrighty, guys. Good evening. Happy fucking Thursday. Hope you guys are having a wonderful evening so far. On a bit later here, guys, but that will happen. Had stuff going on today, as is the usual. So here we are. Good. Ah, yes. Did some DVDs yesterday, guys. Went over some of the new IP from BHVR, and I'm out of water. And covered a little bit of the patch notes I missed about rarity of items. As it turns out, it doesn't really matter at all. It changes almost nothing, and as such, people are just kind of... look really red. There we go. Yeah. As such, there's still problems with getting offerings. Good evening, Casey. Yeah, did he get hit at, it's fucking hilarious. You can actually change stun durations as a cheater. How the fuck does that happen? Got stuck in a 60-second head-on animation from a locker. Only particularly head-on, I don't know why. Stuff. I don't know, guys. I need some water, too. I am kind of parched. I was busy changing out bearings on a motor, which still isn't done. Some fucker at a factory somewhere drilled a hole in the side case for the screws and then went right into the main case. It's supposed to be a totally enclosed motor, which means no water gets in it. And drilled through the side case, and then water got into the motor and fucked up the bearings because rust appeared in the motor, and the rust got into the bearings. And then the bearings got fucked because of the rust. Still not done. I siliconed it up. See how she goes. Yeah. They disconnected you out of the chat. So chat only lasts for 5 minutes. That being said, it can definitely crash your game. So definitely can crash your game. I've had some instances where I know someone's cheating, and like they're pretty obvious, and like they're stream sniper cheaters, and then they crash your game so you can't report them. Play Rust now. Rust is boring. Rust is basically just involves you just building a base and then getting brained constantly and spam killed. I'd rather play PlanetSide 2 than play Rust. But there's always a fucking sale. Your sale. Have you noticed you're on sale, Slain? We didn't get any rage cheaters yesterday. We got 2 cheaters. We didn't get any rage cheaters though. So I think we're doing a pretty good job of dodging them. We'll see how it goes, though. We only played a limited number of games yesterday, and we got a cheat lobby with 2 cheaters in it, but they're subtle cheaters. Yeah, so they forcibly disconnected you. It's interesting. It's fucking interesting that they can do it. Once again, BHVR is one of the worst anti-cheats in existence. It's not easy anti-cheat, by the way. It's their implementation of easy anti-cheat is balls. People just look at the banner and they go, oh, it's easy anti-cheat. What people don't understand is implementation of anti-cheat oftentimes depends on how well the developers implement it. And easy anti-cheat is used in Fortnite. Fortnite does a relatively good job. There's still people that cheat at Fortnite, does a relatively good job at anti-cheat. Overwatch also does a pretty good job, but they don't have it's their in-house anti-cheat, so I don't know what it's like anymore. Blizzard's not what they used to be, so yeah. We'll see. But we didn't get any rage cheating yesterday, instead we just got two fuckboy subtle hackers on Midwich. Take a look at the tubes, guys, see what's going on tonight. I don't think we're going to do any uploads tonight, mainly because we spent a lot of time doing that, and I'm almost done with them too anyways, so. I'm going to take a look at one of the 20-minute videos I was curious about. $700 XT still proving the doubters wrong.
And that it currently costs $400 US, which was the MSRP for both the 5700 XT and 2060 Super. And as of this month, the 5700 XT is now a 3-year-old product. So I am very intrigued to see how it stacks up to a similarly priced GeForce product in 2022. But before we do, today's sponsor is a wide of new games to test with. Now, this video will be focusing exclusively on rasterization performance, as the 5700 XT does not support ray tracing.
Ray tracing is dumb anyways.
I don't believe the ray
Takes too
tracing
much
performance of the 2060
processing
is all
performance.
that useful, but of course opinions will vary there. But for example, the RTX 2060 Super is only good for 59 FPS on average in Cyberpunk 2077 at 1440p using the very dialed down medium quality preset. So enabling ray tracing is going to result in a very sub 60 FPS experience, and I'm really not interested in that at this price point.
I don't think most people are interested in ray tracing.
Comparing them with just the 2060 Super using ray
Don't
tracing,
skip ads, I'll skip yours. Don't you skip my ads? I'm pretty sure everyone skips my ads.
If you require ray tracing support,
Also suck my dick.
That makes or would have made the buying decision a lot easier. You'd obviously get the GeForce graphics card, and I said that at the time. Now, another advantage of the 2060 Super is DLSS, and as
I mean, some people buy video cards based on the way they look, so.
Less and less of a key selling point for modern GeForce GPUs, thanks to the release and continued progress of FSR, which is now in its second revision. DLSS is still the superior technology, but it's really not that much better, and FSR 2.0 support has been quite rapid. Anyway, I won't be including any DLSS or FSR testing either. Rather, I'll be sticking to native performance.
FSR works on older AMD graphics cards too, and I believe it also can work on NVIDIA.
It's worth noting that the image quality of these upscaling technologies does vary quite a lot from title to
For
title.
DLSS is based on the version of the NVIDIA GPU
now,
you have.
The point of today's video is to create an updated comparison between these two GPUs in over 30 games, many of which are new titles such as Forza Horizon 5, Sniper Elite 5, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Dying Light 2, God of War, Halo Infinite, Rainbow Six Extraction, and F1 22, for example. So with that, let's go over the test setup, and then we'll jump into the blue bar graphs. All testing has been conducted on our Ryzen 9 5800X 3D test system.
You get my coffee and water. I'll be back, guys.
200CL14 memory, along with the latest available display drivers. Again, 33 games have been tested at 1080p and 1440p, and we'll take a close look at the data from around a dozen of the titles before jumping into the usual breakdown graphs. Please note all graphs will be made available to Floatplane and Patreon members. Okay, let's get into it. Starting with the new first-person shooter, Hunt Showdown, we find that all three GPUs delivered basically the exact same level of performance, using the high-quality preset or managed to push well over 100 FPS, though at 1440p we're looking at more like 80 FPS on average, so still a great experience, but not ideal for those of you with high refresh rate monitors. It's impressive to see the 5700 XT not only hanging in there, but also matching the RTX 3060 in a brand new title. The God of War data is also very impressive. Here we have another new and very much cutting edge title, and the 5700 XT can be seen basically matching the RTX 3060, which also meant it was able to keep pace with the RTX 2060 Super. Again, we're looking at well over 100 FPS at 1080p, this time using the original quality preset, which is more of a medium type setting. Now, Assassin's Creed Valhalla might be an AMD sponsored title, but it works very well with GeForce GPUs, especially after Nvidia sorted out their performance issues last year. However, Assassin's Creed Valhalla also responds very well to resizable bar, and this is currently a weakness of GeForce GPUs in most games that support this feature well. We see that although the RTX 2060 Super and RTX 3060 are comparable in terms of performance, the 5700 XT is massively faster, delivering almost 30% more performance at 1080p and 23% more at 1440p. That is a significant performance advantage that resulted in a very noticeable improvement to the gaming experience. Another game that responds well to enabling resizable bar is Forza Horizon 5, and boy does the 5700 XT blow away the RTX 3060 and in particular the 2060 Super here. At 1080p, the Radeon GPU was 25% faster than the 3060 and a massive 34% faster than the 2060 Super. And that margin didn't change much at 1440p, where the 5700 XT was still 33% faster, pushing up well over 100 FPS. The 5700 XT also powered ahead in Death Stranding, beating the RTX 3060 by a 21% margin at 1080p and then 20% at 1440p. Again, it easily brushed the RTX 2060 Super aside, with 30% more frames at 1080p and 28% more at 1440p. Granted, all tested GPUs did perform well in this title using the very high quality settings, but for a truly high refresh rate experience, the old 5700 XT held up rather well. Moving on to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, again the 5700 XT can be seen on top, delivering 86 FPS at 1080p, making it 8% faster than the RTX 3060 and 16% faster than the 2060 Super. So while the performance is somewhat comparable to the new RTX 3060, it is much faster than its $400 US competitor in the RTX 2060 Super. Next up, we have another 2022 release in Dying Light 2, and again, the 5700 XT is here to show the RTX 3060 who's boss. This is also a title that does support ray tracing, and the effects can look very nice, but with just 64 FPS with the RTX 3060 and 59 FPS for the 2060 Super using the high quality preset, I'm not sure you'd want to drop frame rates further with RTFX. Then at 1440p, we're looking at well below 60 FPS for the GeForce GPUs, and although the 5700 XT only managed 51 FPS, it was still 9% faster than the RTX 3060 and a massive 24% faster than the RTX 2060 Super. Sniper Elite 5 is yet another new 2022 title, and again, the 5700 XT finds itself well out in front, delivering 112 FPS on average at 1080p, making it 17% faster than the GeForce GPUs at both tested resolutions. That's a big performance difference, and at 1440p those extra frames were certainly very noticeable. Watchdog's Legion is an Nvidia-sponsored title, but that doesn't really seem to matter. The 5700 XT was still 16% faster than the RTX 3060 at 1080p, and 20% faster than the 2060 Super. Then at 1440p, the Radeon GPU was 11% faster than the 3060 and 18% faster than the 2060 Super, using the slightly dialed down, very high quality preset. Cyberpunk 2077 is another game that uses ray tracing effects.
Welcome back, guys.
Certainly one of the best examples in my opinion. However, with this class of GPU, visual quality compromises really do need to be made in order to enable RTFX. For example, we're only using the medium quality.
You're bored of games? That happens to everyone.
Pretty good.
As it turns out, you get bored of everything in life. If you look for new adventure, you eventually run out of it when you get old. And it's just part of getting old. So you have to learn to like things that you liked before all over again in order to rekindle your passions that you have, or you end up basically as a mindless Hulk that doesn't care about anything. You'll sit there flipping through channels on TV without anything you actually want to do or watch.
Can't say I was ever sold on ray
Part
tracing.
of hobbies or interest is self-discovery in yourself.
The Hitman 3 data is rather interesting.
Or you could go out in life and try new things. You don't need to play games forever.
And this feature can be used by the RTX 3060 and the RTX 2060 Super, but not the 5700 XT, as it doesn't include hardware support. So VRS is disabled on the Radeon GPU, while the VRS quality option was used for the GeForce GPUs. Now, despite
something you enjoy doing.
5700 XT still beat both GPUs at 1080p and roughly matched the RTX 2060 Super at 1440p, trailing the RTX 3060 by an 11% margin. So not a bad result overall. As I understand it, VRS does little to nothing to improve performance in Hitman 3, which will no doubt disappoint those who 3 years ago claimed that the 5700 XT was a terrible investment due to the lack of VRS and DirectX 12 Ultimate features. The 5700 XT performed well in Far Cry 6, delivering 141 FPS at 1080p.
5700 XT was a great graphics card. I haven't talked about it when it came out.
22% margin, and the 2060
4 years old.
Super
It's not
by
3, is it?
6% margin. It was much the same at
It's
1440p,
2019.
18%
Pretty sure it's older
faster
than
than
that.
the RTX 3060 and 24% faster than the RTX 2060 Super. So an easy win here for the old 5700 XT. The Halo Infinite results look a lot like what we saw when testing
2019.
Showdown.
Weird.
Basically, performance is
Feels
very
like older
similar
than that.
across all three tested GPUs, though here the 5700 XT does have a slight performance advantage, particularly over the 2060 Super. We're looking at a 7% increase at 1080p and a 6% increase at 1440p, so small gains over the 2060 Super and probably not enough where you would notice the difference, but again, it is impressive to see
Make
the
it seem like I'm
5700
supposed
XT matching
to
the RTX 3060.
care whether or not
And
you
the
like
last
games or
game we'll
not.
look at the individual
You can
data
like
for
whatever you
is
want.
Rainbow Six Siege using the medium quality preset. Again, the 5700 XT
Not going to make
managed
me
to
hate
edge out
games
the
more
RTX 3060,
because someone else is
so
bored
we're
of
only
them.
talking about a mere 3 to 5%. However, when compared to the 2060 Super, the 5700 XT is clearly faster, offering 16% more performance at 1080p and 18% more at 1440p. Okay, so here's a look at how the Radeon RX 5700 XT and GeForce RTX 2060 Super stacked up across all 33 games tested at 1440p. As you can see, 3 years later, the 5700 XT still has the 2060 Super's number, beating it on average.
You also have to consider here, even though
margin.
5700 XT looks like a good deal, prices are still coming down from crypto mining, which has bottomed out.
There's just a single example where the 5700 XT lost by greater than a 5% margin, but 24 examples where it was faster by more than a 5% margin.
I don't really like when people do this where they pretend that like current market prices are where it's going to stabilize at. I mean, it's what you can look at and go, well, you can't predict the future, right? But you can to a certain extent. Like you can look at historic prices of GPUs prior to launch of new GPUs, and you can see that they're still out of whack compared to where they're supposed to be.
The Radeon GPU was 6% faster on average. And again, we see multiple instances of 20% plus gains, with just 3 examples of the 5700 XT losing by a 10% or greater margin, with the biggest loss being 13% in the Outer Worlds. Not bad, I'd say, especially for ancient technology that doesn't support DirectX 12 Ultimate. So there you have it, the Radeon RX 5700 XT and GeForce RTX 2060 Super battle in 2022, along with some RTX 3060 data in there for good measure. It is impressive to see that both GPUs still perform very well, offering an exceptional 1080p experience with solid 1440p performance if you're willing to dial down those quality settings just a little bit. As for which one of these GPUs gamers should have bought back in 2019, I think the answer is pretty obvious now. Not only has the 5700 XT stood the test of time, but with hindsight, we now know that it was the right play. And in fact, because of that, no gamer should still own one today. That's because last year, and for the better part of this year, 5700 XT owners could have essentially traded in their used graphics card for a brand new 6700 XT. In fact, back in January, the average sale price on eBay was $815, down from $900 in December, and just over $1,000 in November.
I talked about this
during the same period, you could buy a
earlier this spring and last year.
Scalper prices on eBay for $866 in January.
Yep.
$897 in December.
Mentioned you could sell your video card for 3080s or selling for 1500.
Upgrade a straight swap, and that's not bad after 2 years. Meanwhile, during the same
You basically double the
period,
value of your card, you
Supers
sell it
were
off,
selling
and then use whatever shit card you have and put it in your system.
$677
And
in December and $700 in
6 months
November.
later,
That's
buy on the
30%
dip.
less
Basically, what it comes
than
down to, it's the same thing as
5700
managing crypto.
despite them originally costing the same amount back in 2019. And that means 2060 Super owners couldn't even sell their GPU for a side grade with an RTX 3060, at least not without spending a bit more cash. So the 5700 XT and 2060 Super battle is a classic example of why you should almost always buy what offers you the
Not that I'm
most
very
value
certain that he didn't offer that
right
advice,
now,
by the way.
rather than
I'm incredibly certain this is an after-the-fact sort of
the
thought.
truth is, we knew from day one that the 2060 Super was based on a more forward-thinking architecture. Not only does Turing support ray tracing and DLSS, but it also supports DirectX 12 Ultimate features.
Not good for
as well as
streaming.
sample
Well,
feedback,
depends on what you're trying to do while
rate
streaming.
shading, and
If you want to use the
frame
hardware
shading.
encoder from a
But
single
now that we're
PC, sure.
3 years down the track, how much of a key
2000,
role
3000 series have
have
that
these
in the
features
bag.
played? And really, that question does
AMD,
answer
apparently,
itself.
actually, it's
We're
not
still
too
yet
bad
to
anymore
see
because
many of
AMD
these
added
features
B-frames
properly
like a month
used,
ago.
and we're certainly still yet
And
to
it's
see a
not
game
quite
that
as good as
leverages
NVENC,
them
but
to a
it
degree
improved it quite a bit.
triples the 5700
Their encoding
XT,
technology.
excluding ray tracing, of course, which simply doesn't work at all. But as I've said, I don't feel the ray tracing support of the RTX 2060 Super is or was a key selling point, as you're at best looking at a heavily compromised experience, either in terms of visuals by having to downgrade other quality settings, or the frame rate, which often drops well below 60 FPS. And look, ray tracing support was always questionable on Turing, period. And today, we believe it really requires at least an RTX 3080 to enjoy properly, And after numerous detailed investigations and careful consideration, no one is going to change our mind on that.
Gotta love when people are
DLSS, on the
aggressively
other hand,
assertive.
is an excellent feature that will often prove highly
Question things a
beneficial
bit.
for the 2060 Super at 1440p and even help achieve playable performance at 4K in some instances.
By the way,
So
anyone that
is a
says
killer
period
feature
or
that's certainly worth
full
considering
stop
when
after
buying
something they
this
said,
GPU.
and it's just like you have to immediately question what they're saying. They use it as a way of, as a rhetorical device, as a way to make you just not actually question what they're talking about.
Gamers won't actually be able to
People like
tell
that are
them
usually
apart.
full of shit.
So while we
It's not the only
consider
time he's done that, by the
DLSS
way.
superior feature, it's certainly less of a key feature today than it was a year or more ago. All of that said, as it stands in mid-2022, the
hate
Radeon
when people do that.
RX 5700 XT is the superior performer and will provide the most value in the
It's like
vast
people that
majority of
pretend
cases.
that like what they're
Having
saying is
said
just
all that,
automatically right because
probably
they say it.
shouldn't have one anymore. They should have all
Okay,
been
that's
sold
not
to
how an
miners
argument works,
and
dude.
then eventually sold back to gamers at a much lower price. Really, the only potential knock of the 5700 XT is the lack of ray tracing, but again, I've given my opinion on that. But look, if you want or care about
Ray tracing doesn't matter.
support, then the RTX
It's
2060
fun,
Super
it's
was the
cool.
obvious
AMD or
choice. But
Nvidia pushed
again,
the
I've
shit out
already
of
made
it.
my opinion clear on that one.
However, it's in terms of like actually playing a game and enjoying it,
It's
amounts to
disappointing
almost
to see that
nothing.
3 years later, the
Good lighting,
$400 price
good
point
rasterization, and
hasn't
good
moved
lighting
that much
from
in
it
terms of price
can look
versus
almost as
performance,
good.
at least for Nvidia. You can
And then
still
you have to put it
snag
under a
Radeon
microscope to see
RX
what's going on.
6600 XT for
To notice the fucking rocket in the guy's eyeball off of a bus in
That's
Battlefield 4.
basically 5700 XT performance
5,
for a small
Battlefield
discount
5.
3 years later. Though the 6700 XT is just 8% more expensive and offers around 30% more performance. So that would have been great, I suppose, if we were talking about it 2 years ago now. And that is going to do it for this GPU revisit. If you like this video, you know what to do. Subscribe for more
Cool.
content. And if you'd like
5700
to
XT has always been a good value, guys.
member, check out Float Plane Patreon. Links are in the video description.
But
You get access to
after the fact,
monthly live streams,
and it
so
doesn't really help people out now. It's not like you're going to go buy a
whatever's
5700 XT. You should be
on.
waiting
We
for this
have a
fall.
Discord server, so lots of Harbor Unbox members on there. It's a great place to hang out and talk.
Kind of shocked at the light difference between the 2060 and 3060. Yeah.
Behind the scenes,
That's
content,
intentional.
Tim's building a new studio, some cool stuff there, and Q&As. So if you're interested, check
Because the
that out.
3060 was released during the crypto boom, and they felt like they didn't need to deliver
I'm your host,
performance
Steve.
on it.
I'll see you again next time.
Okay. Bye, Tim, or whatever his name is, Greg. Good. Let's take a look at a critical drinker, and then get my video demonetized on YouTube.
Probably know that I've been away for the past week, drinking and partying, and generally pretending to be some kind of big shot at Tampa Bay Comic-Con, which was fucking awesome, by the way. But all good things must come to an end, and after waking up in the swamplands of Florida with a dead alligator on one side and an inflatable woman on the other, or was it the other way around? I realized it was
I'm
time
totally
to
not
return
gonna.
to
It's
not so
by the way,
solid
it's
and
definitely
get
getting
back to
there.
reviewing
I
Steve
started.
Malignant.
I just started Dead by Daylight, and you could hear the video card going zzz, zzz, zzz. Like the fans were ramping up and down really fast until it finally normalized a little bit, but it kept doing that over and over and over again, which means it's too hot and it gets above like a certain amount of hysteresis, and the fan just goes whoop, like way up because EVGA apparently can't program a good hysteresis past a certain
What
point.
should I talk about? I pondered as I sat waiting for my flight and
Yeah.
hoping I was airborne.
Yeah, it
before
needs
the
a
state
it needs a
police found
repace.
that dead,
That's not on top of my list. I have other things I have to do right now.
Well, as it happened, fate stepped in at that very moment.
peeling
to
guys
provide
from
me with an
EAA.
answer.
Isn't that fucking fantastic? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Damn, one thing I'll say about
Look at
Warner
that.
Brothers, unlike Disney Marvel, at least they're efficient with their stupidity. Now they're even cancelling finished movies before we can even see them. Honestly, give it a few more years and they're just gonna dump $100 million into a big pile and set it on fire. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, this is the first time that something like this has ever happened. Yeah, plenty of movies have flopped and TV shows have been
To
cancelled.
be fair, if something is going to irrevocably hurt your brand name, it's a good idea to dump it. When Game of Thrones was airing, I tweeted it, by the way. I tweeted these multiple times, which is why it's cemented, it's seared in history on my Twitter. I tweeted that HBO should literally stop Game of Thrones and release it as like season 8 and release it as a special edition thing after recasting the series, after recasting the season, because it was fucking horrible. You could tell from the first episode things were not going quite right. And the second episode, when there's only 6 episodes, the second episode, You're like, what the fuck's going on here? They've already released 2 episodes. And you're like, what the fuck's happening here? And the 3rd episode, which is after I tweeted that, the 3rd episode, they're like, holy shit, you know, where they have the end battle, which should have been the end of the series, they have the end battle with the Night King, and it's just fucking pitch black. You can't see anything. You have no idea what's going on. And the entire fight sequence, the entire battle was horrible. Absolutely fucking terrible. Horrible. So it definitely would have been better for them to have shelved it and release it as a special edition item than have aired it prior to having a really, like, a pristine and well thought out season 8 aired, right? Because it irrevocably hurts Game of Thrones. You can't tell me otherwise. Season 8 was horrible. And pretty much everyone knows it now. It's become a meme at this point. It's literally probably the best example of taking a series from very good to literally negative. I talked about this before. I ranted about Game of Thrones on my stream for 4 hours after it aired. And it literally it went not just up, it went down. It went up, went down, and then made me retroactively hate the earlier seasons, in which I realized that they literally had no idea what the fuck they were doing. Like, it made me hate the series earlier than that. It hurt the brand name earlier than the actual season. So, while it might seem bad, you can actually, it could be a negative, putting aside the fact that releasing it means you're going to make some money. It might absolutely fucking hurt the brand name to the point at which, you know, it's not something you're going to easily get past. It's going to hurt your later, like, movies later on in the franchise.
And then you get weird anomalies like that Fantastic Four movie from back in the 90s that was basically just a low-budget rights retainer designed never to be seen, but this is the first actual legit movie with big-name actors and a real budget to get shit-canned when it's basically ready to go. Damn man, you've got to feel bad for the people involved in this. Like, imagine spending months or even years developing a major project like this, only to get told at the 11th hour that the whole thing's gonna get erased quicker than an unpopular Soviet citizen, and all your hard work was for fucking...
If you didn't know, Stalin made a lot of people disappear. That reference right there, Stalin made a lot of people disappear. And after they disappeared, he would have people literally retroactively remove them from past, like, photos. They would Photoshop, essentially. They would Photoshop old photos to remove people from them with illustrators. And this is before Photoshop. They had, like, newspapers and illustrator departments that would censor out figures that he had removed from light. Yeah, pretty crazy shit. This is prior to Photoshop. This is like in the fucking 60s, 50s? What's Stalin, 50s? I think, who's it? Not Putin, Lenin. Lenin was after a certain point.
Nothing. It's a bit like taking the mountain to
I don't know if
Mohammed,
Lenin is before
only
or
to
after
find
Stalin.
out that he's already got a bigger one. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was always going to be a tough sell from a floundering studio that doesn't seem to know what to do with its awesome lineup of characters. Yet another female-centric superhero flick from a company with a spotty track record for this kind of thing, featuring a race-swap protagonist and some weird multiversal plot device that felt like a cheap excuse to get Michael Keaton back as Bruce Wayne. And I imagine the poor test screenings didn't exactly help convince the studio that they had a major hit on their hands.
I don't, like, there's a lot of people right now that are blaming the poor theater showings for superhero movies right now, like Eternals. They blame it on fucking everything. They blame it on the fact that Corona's still around, which is plausible for a little bit, but we're in 2022 now. A lot of people that are, not interested in Corona have gotten their boosters, they've gotten their shots, which I have, and I'll keep getting my boosters. I don't fucking care. I'll keep getting my boosters because they're free, and even if they're paid, I'd still get them anyways. If it reduces my symptoms and what happens when I get Corona, I'll definitely do it. I don't want to fucking end up with brain damage, reduced lung capacity, failing kidneys, shit like that. I want to stay alive. But if that's your prerogative, go for it. If you think your immune system is better than an antivirus or antivirus can help you out, then that's your prerogative. A vaccine. If you don't think a vaccine can help you out by feeding you a bunch of shitty versions of the virus, which is normally how a vaccine works, or programs your cells to, or not programs, gives your cells instructions to print out a bunch of T cells or whatever they're called, then your prerogative, right? Whatever. But anyways, they're blaming this shit on fucking everything. They're blaming, mainly it was Corona, now they're blaming it on people that just, people that are isms or phobes, so people that are racist or transphobes, hating on series, and that's why, the negative publicity is why no one wants to watch it, as with, even for at-home stuff, that was with Mandalorian, Obi-Wan. They made anyone that hate anyone that hated Riva out as a racist because, they got like one guy online that said something racist, and then they just basically labeled everyone that didn't like the Riva character as someone that's racist because you don't like the character because she's black. Not true at all. That was Disney or Lucasfilms, one of the two, who did that right out of the gates. Because they literally are just trying to encourage people to watch it, because if you don't watch it, you're racist, or on top of it, you don't want to support people that are racist, right? It's like completely just changing narrative. It's not even what the series is about anymore. But in the case of movies, they're literally throwing everything they can at it to make up the excuse of why people aren't going to watch it. Oh, it's because it's before its time, right? It's aired before its time. If a newer generation is going to like this a lot more. There's just lots of steaming piles of shit. And we've talked about Adderall writing before, because that's definitely part of it. Adderall writing basically being when you're on Adderall, you have a very, very hearty stream of consciousness, which means you'll just it makes it very easy to write stream of consciousness, which is just everything that comes to mind. You can sit here and pour it out. The Family Guy episode where they had Brian writing on Adderall just explains it perfectly. And if you don't think that's true, you've never been through college. I'm sorry, but it's 100% true. People buying $20 Adderall, $20 per pill. I don't know what it is nowadays. Back when I was in college, people buying an Adderall pill for $20 a piece. Yeah, and just so they can basically pound out term paper or whatever without basically thinking about it. It just literally turns into garbage. They just literally just shit out garbage, and like it's loosely tied together arguments and thoughts. Some people literally just go through timelines. Like they'll literally just quote a timeline over and over and over again, something very repetitive, something very focused, and then like lose sight of their overall argument or thought process. I remember reading some papers because back when I was in college, when we were in like English class, we'd have to read like our peers' papers, and you could totally tell some people were on something when they're writing it, because it was just like all just like stuck together shit, and it's just like, oh, like they literally just going to start quoting timelines. Like we had a research paper which was, what was it called? Not argumentative. It's supposed to be a supportive paper for changing people. I don't remember the name of it. Supportive paper for changing basically the opinion of someone that you're writing to. And there's like one person that's like, it's supposed to be researched and sourced, right? Like you put together an overall argument, and then just like, I remember reading one guy's paper, and it was literally just him sourcing events. Like all he did was quote timelines just over and over and over again, and that was it. Like he didn't put together an overall thought process. It was just a bunch of just stuff thrown together. And you can see the same way with Adderall writing, where people just think up random events. They get hyper-focused on this random event, and then completely forget about all the characters they're supposed to interact with it. Writing, in my personal opinion, especially fantasy or anything where you have to think out characters, is a bunch of parallel threads all operating at the same time. It's not a serialization. You have to think from all these different characters' point of view, which is why good writing really shows. You have to think from all these different points of views when all these characters interact with each other and change. And it's very rare now for a good TV series to do that. And one of the good TV shows that does that was Raised by Wolves, and they fucking canned that shit. So yeah, and it got to the point where people can't handle like complex thought structures and processes. She-Hulk, I think, is Marvel, and Batgirl is DC. So I believe I'm pretty sure, because Hulk's Marvel. Yeah, and Eternals aired. So I mean, you shouldn't talk about She-Hulk. You should talk about Eternals. Like, it's just so fucking bad. You can tell the writing is horrible, and it makes me wonder if they don't even greenlight shit anymore based... Like, there's... what was I just watching? It was kind of a progressive TV show. Kind of SJW shit, but not really. It was still alright. Hacks, HBO series. And HBO, unfortunately, getting kind of woke in their shit that they're writing and coming out with, to the point where it's just basically about, once again, just perpetuating a message about... representation and diversity and stupid shit, just all thrown together, and that's it. It's not about a really good story. Anyways, Hacks involves, there's some of that in there, but Hacks also involves relatively decent punchlines. It's something to watch. Anyways, one of the stories that we're talking about in there was, one of the things that happened in there was they had a show. Was it Hacks? They had a TV show, and it got canceled, and like when they're in the room, no, it was Barry. It wasn't Hacks, it was Barry. Barry was pretty good, and season 3 was horrible, absolutely horrible. Horrible. They went from a dark comedy to, hey, look, this is a documentary of what it's like being a serial killer and how horrible of a person you are and your actions coming back to bite you in the ass. Fucking horrible. I still have the last episode to watch, and I can't watch it. It's so bad. It's so fucking bad. Just, like they don't even understand they're writing comedies anymore. They're just about writing just political messages and propaganda, and then they pat themselves on the back after they do it, And they don't even consider the fact that they're supposed to be writing a documentary or a comedy anymore. You're not documentary, comedy. It's supposed to be comedy. You're supposed to laugh and not be like ultra serious. I mean, dark comedy is kind of serious sometimes, right? That's part of what makes it interesting and fun. But all it was is literally depressing bullshit. And you're like, why am I... Do you understand what your demographic is? For what you're targeting? Like, what is this shit anymore? People are like, writers are too interested in writing garbage. They're just too interested in writing their own rhetorical garbage to, like, kind of change the world in their own way, because they've heard of other good writers doing that with their works, right? And then they change their lives. So they're so interested in changing other people's lives, they don't even bother writing, like, using the tools to convey it, right? They don't use the tools to convey an argument and, you know, weigh and balance the pros and cons. Like, the common rhetoric I hear for people like Woke Trek now, or Cursed Trek, the new Star Trek series are fucking horrible. Stranger New Worlds wasn't super bad. Cursed Trek is horrible. Discovery, absolutely terrible, which is one of the reasons I watch it. But like some of the older Star Trek, people are like, oh, there's always, you know, Star Trek's always been woke. Yeah, it's always had diversity in it and representation in it, but it didn't go out of its way to single that out and make it seem like the series was only about that. It was only about that. Discovery is literally about that. They can't act. The people they have on the show, it doesn't matter if they're representing, they can't act. They can't do anything remotely useful. When someone makes a dumb joke on the show, the cast giggles. Like, you can literally see other people on the show. They can't deadpan a joke. Now, I watched Orville, which was originally started as fart jokes. Slapstick humor. Started out slapstick humor and really stupid shit. And Orville is actually doing Star Trek better than Star Trek's doing Star Trek. And like, there is some parts in there that I'm really... There was an hour and 15 minutes about gender politics in there. There's an hour and 15-minute gender politics episode, and I walked out of the room because I couldn't stand it. It was like listening to people cry constantly and act helpless, and then just like perpetuating whatever political, ideological beliefs that they have at the same time, loosely veiled by what's happening in the story. And I couldn't handle it. It was horrible. It just made me hate the series, because all they were doing was literally just, it's like imagining someone like at a town square just sitting up in a pedestal, just like constantly just like mouth fucking you. And like, I couldn't, like, I don't want to, I'm supposed to be entertained, and that's not entertaining when I'm literally sitting here listening to your political rhetoric. It doesn't matter which side you're coming from. That's not fun. That's not fun. If you want to, you know, cover it up, you know, you're going to have pros and cons, which Orville actually does, by the way. Star Trek used to do that. It doesn't do it anymore. It's too busy trying to face fuck you with its political ideological beliefs. Orville does it where they'll generally weigh the pros and cons of like whatever's happening in the series, which sometimes they'll pick the right answer, sometimes they'll pick the wrong answer, sometimes they'll figure out later on that they picked the wrong answer, and sometimes they're incapable of picking the right answer. Just like real life, you're not always able to do everything that you want, especially if it aligns with what you want. And surprise, life doesn't always do what you want. Fucking crazy, I know, but apparently everyone thinks it does now. And then they make their TV show that way. So yeah, just, I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna be airing soon. That's been talked about a lot. Oh, not Game of Thrones. I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings. That's Amazon, isn't it? The new Lord of the Rings TV show is coming out, and it's going to be pretty bad. If you guys didn't get that from the trailers, like, they're already they're modernizing it. Yeah, they're modernizing Middle-earth to be better representative of things that weren't in it, because that's apparently how you write stuff now. You just disregard the original author's works, you know, wherever they want to put it. Like, so in Star Trek, let's imagine a fantasy. If you're in a fantasy world, right, and a certain race looks a certain way, that's just the way it is, right? You have high elves, and they're always white, kind of like girly boys, right? And women are very fair and fair-skinned, and the guys are also very fair-skinned and look a lot like women. Like, you don't make them black, because that's not what they are. That is literally not their race. And in Star Trek, if you have Klingons, you know, which are traditionally played by black actors, putting that aside, they generally are darker skinned. Actually, I think maybe there are light skinned Klingons. Actually, I take that back. That's a bad example. Some races obviously just have like purple skin and green skin and whatever. But Klingons, I think, actually have light skin. Some of them do, but once again, black. Oh, I think Discovery had an albino Klingon. Okay. Good job, Discovery. Changing the world. Changing the fucking world. But traditionally, they're played by black actors and almost always have extremely dark skin. And that's just the way they are. You don't have fucking albino Klingons, although Discovery apparently went out of their way to do that. Good for them. So, bad example. However, there are other races in Star Trek which literally look a certain way, and that's just the way they are. I guess Klingons were used as a political statement in Discovery, so here we are today. But yeah, Game of Thrones, HBO was actually going to have 2 different spin-offs from Game of Thrones, and they canceled one almost immediately, and I think they're working on another one. There's, like, the House of Targaryen, I think it is. House of the Dragon. Yeah, there were supposed to be 2, and they canned one already. Oh my god. But, like, it's just the way it is. It's whatever universe you're in, whatever fantasy you pick, whatever world you're in, that's just the way that it is. It's just the way the races work in whatever world you're in. In the case of Lord of the Rings, they just have actors, or they have races that look a certain way, and that's just the way they are. So, yeah. And then, like, even if you put, like, people, like, argue in the realization aspect, too, like there's a black dwarf, but black dwarf still makes sense because, if you guys didn't know, your skin gets darker the closer you are, basically to the equator. So people around in hotter climates will have darker skin because it actually functions as a form of UPF. What's the sunscreen? Dark skin actually has a SPF. Yep. Dark-skinned has a natural protectant factor of up to 13, SPF 13. Basically, is built in. It's evolution. Surprise! It's evolution because you evolve around a hot climate in an area with a lot of sun, and as such, your skin develops a way of better dealing with it. But if you're underground, basically, you look like an albino. You'd also lose your eyesight. You look like an albino, you lose your eyesight over time, just like any animals that operate underground for prolonged periods of time generally have really poor eyesight, but have better smell and touch and hearing. Either way, that's reality. Reality doesn't make sense. Reality's boring too.
Rumors that
yeah.
I've heard are true.
It's just-
It actually scored higher than Black Adam and Shazam 2. Jesus, they're really fucked in that case. But even if it didn't test well, you've got to ask yourself, how bad does a film really need to be that the studio would rather pull the plug on the whole thing and lose
Makes me wanna
tens of
see it,
millions
actually.
of dollars rather than just recut it and try to salvage something halfway decent? And keep in mind, this is the same studio that reckoned Birds of Prey, Justice League, and Wonder Woman 1984 were fit for human consumption. I mean, shit, man, you could even have released it direct to streaming and still recouped some of your losses. I don't know about you, but I'd rather make back $10 million than $0.
Not a great plan.
And Batgirl isn't the only movie to get shit canned.
But once
At the
again,
time
if
of
you
making this
retroactively-
video,
if
the
you
rumor
hurt
is that
your,
Supergirl is
IP
also
brand-
on the chopping block. 2 female-centric superhero movies featuring race-swap protagonists that happen to get unceremoniously cancelled at the same time. Whatever could be the connection here, I wonder? Well, buckle up, dear viewer, because we're about to venture into the murky world of corporate politics. The connection in this case is David Zaslav, the head of Warner Brothers Discovery, the new company that was created after AT&T dropped Warner Brothers like a big steaming turd because it was losing money hand over fist, and Discovery bought it up instead. With the takeover came a new leadership team under Zaslav and a new objective: to somehow unfuck the gigantic mess that DC on film has become. And holy shit, this guy doesn't mess around. Right off the bat, he fired a bunch of senior executives from the old regime. encouraged them to step down of their own free will, and movies turned his attention to the films that they were making. See, this isn't the first time that Warner have course-corrected like this. In the wake of the failed Snyderverse, the film division was reorganized under Walter Hamada, and his genius strategy was to basically do whatever was popular at the time. And what was popular at the time was diversity, female empowerment, and representation. And rather than try to work those things into his movies with skill, intelligence, and patience, Warner Brothers instead decided to just straight up replace popular characters played by problematic white men with more diverse alternatives. That's how we ended up with race-swapped Barbara Gordon replacing Batman, and race-swapped Kara Zor-El replacing Superman. Not to mention female-centric movies like Birds of Prey and Wonder Woman 1984. Unfortunately, this change of direction didn't exactly pan out the way the studio imagined. The latter two movies were gigantic turds that lost Warner Brothers a shit ton of money, and as for the others, well, I think it's fair to say that after nearly a decade of having the message shoved down our throats, audiences are getting a little bit tired of
Better way. So he has a better way of talking about SJW bullshit or very left-leaning politics, which is this right here. Yeah. It's not about hating, by the way. If some people think, oh, if you don't support it, you're obviously hating. No, it's just about not constantly having political agenda shoved down your throat.
The message shoved down our throats. Audiences are getting a little bit tired of this shit. Simply race or gender swapping an existing.
You can look at the comment sections on a lot of TV shows, especially where it's very prominent, and that's basically what they're talking about now. And everyone's called an istism or a phobe if you don't like the TV show, because you don't enjoy having politics shoved down your throat constantly.
Aren't you the kind of mindless applause that it used to? Pushing identity politics into stories where it doesn't belong, or presuming to lecture your audience on how they need to live their lives, is increasingly causing them to vote with their wallets. I think that Zaslav knows this, and that's why he killed Batgirl and probably Supergirl too, because they're both irrevocably tainted with the same stain. Of course, he also knows that he can't publicly criticize the message without incurring the wrath of the people who push it so hard.
Yep.
So instead, it was easier to make the excuse that the film was just plain shit, and that's why he's cancelling it. I mean, maybe it actually is shit too, but let's be real here. Warner's never had a problem with putting out terrible comic book movies before, so why start now? I mean, it's not like their other upcoming films are going to set the world on fire either. Aquaman 2 is saddled with the world's least appealing actress in a major supporting role. Box office poison. The world's
Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Yeah, so she's kind of fallen out of favor. I'm pretty sure this is Amber Heard.
least appealing actress in a major supporting role, who's pretty much become box office poison at this point. The only way to possibly salvage this film is to completely recast her, which would need extensive reshoots and re-edits, all of which cost a lot of money. It's the same problem with The Flash. Ezra Miller is the PR equivalent of a drunken man driving a battle tank through an antique store, but again, it would be so difficult and expensive to recast the main actor at this point that you'd be better off scrapping the entire film and starting again. And it's not like Warner Brothers have another $200 million just lying around doing nothing. Instead, they're doing the only reasonable thing that they can by cancelling the films that are cheap enough to kill outright and applying some damage control to the other ones. If Amber Heard somehow doesn't get removed, I'd expect her role to be cut down to the bare minimum in the finished product. And as for Ezra, well, I wouldn't expect to see him in many more DC films after this, that's for sure. That's the short-term picture with stuff that's already in the pipeline, but what's more interesting here are the larger implications of this change. Put simply, this is a wake-up call, not just at Warner, but in Hollywood at large. It's an acknowledgement that what they've been doing isn't working, and it reinforces my belief that when the chips are down, the industry follows money more than it ever followed any ideology. Ultimately, the message is the kind of luxury that you can only indulge in when you're making money hand over fist, because the more you try to push it, the more people you end up pushing away.
By the way, you can have representation and diversity in a TV series, and it can be perfectly fine. It's when you just make it literally about that. Best example of this, by the way, that blends the two together really well is Arcane, which Arcane has a lot of representation and diversity in it, right? But it doesn't matter because the show itself is actually very good. It tells a very good story. The character development is superb. The characters are likable. The stories are relatable. And the little bits where they have, like for instance, you figure out one of the main characters is gay, but it doesn't matter because it's only a very short, and when it started getting annoying, they basically toned it down immediately. It's only a very short portion where they basically show the affection for someone else, and that's basically all you would expect out of a an adventure or action TV show. right? They don't go deep into this fucking romance that you don't care about and no one cares about in the show. Most people don't care about unless they're looking for a checkbox. They don't go super deep into it because that's not what the story's really about.
That's why Disney's been peddling this garbage so hard over the past several years, because up until recently at least, they could afford to do it. Warner can't, and with Zaslav on board, I think they've finally begun to acknowledge that. You'd be amazed how quickly ideology falls by the wayside once the money runs out, especially in a town where people routinely lie for a living, have all the integrity of a crooked politician, and only pretend to support current thing as long as current thing stays popular.
Yeah, we've talked about this, what's trending, right? I've literally talked about how people nowadays don't have any integrity. It's one of the games I dodge literally Dead by Day. One of the things I look for is people with zero integrity, where I talk about crass names or people that are not cringe, edgy, super edgy names, like things that they know that they shouldn't write and they write anyways. Yeah, so like kind of like your degenerates of life that just basically have nothing operating there and they don't really see anything wrong with anything they do, probably because they've never been told no in their life. Has a pretty good, or they're basically just a sociopath. Either they've never been told no by their parents and properly disciplined when they're doing things that are wrong, or they have ASPD, antisocial personality disorder, which is basically a psychopath. Sociopath's a little bit different than a psychopath, though. I think nowadays, like the DSM has changed so much over the years. It might not even be correct anymore, but that's just basically from when I went to school. So.
And the simple fact is that now, it isn't. Now it's time to stop fucking around, jettison the dead weight, and get things back on track.
I mentioned this before, I can't watch superhero movies. I can't even watch them as like at home. They're good. They're good. The show's not good. The characters aren't good. The story's not good.
But something tells me they won't be the last.
I hate comic book movies now. I used to love them. I basically stopped it around the third Avengers movie.
Very interesting. Anyway, that's all I've got for
Maybe,
today.
we'll see. Like, I'm interested in good writing. And even if they get rid of this, even if they get rid of politics in shows, if people can't write good stories, it doesn't really even matter. This could be because they can't write good stories, so then they just write about stuff that's around them, right? It's not even about ideological beliefs. It might just be about looking for something to write about. And that's unfortunate, too, because that means that we have, like, a creative dearth. And once again, Adderall definitely creatively bankrupts writers, so... You might think we want it, and obviously there's people that need Adderall to function, and I'm not saying that you don't. However, when it comes to creativity, Adderall definitely just destroys your ability to think properly. Makes you very... I wonder what the effects are on, like, mathematics. We've talked about this before, like, Adderall, you can tell when someone's, like, playing games is on, like, a super dose of Adderall, too, because they're hyper-focused on targets. Like, they will literally look like their eyeball is like literally stuck to their crosshair, and their aim will be almost pixel perfect. Their aim will be fantastic, but then they lose like their peripheral. They lose track of like what's a good way of talking about like meta events that happen around them, stuff that they need to pay attention to, but they just completely stop because they're hyper focused on the task, which can be a problem if your dosage is wrong or you're just never were given a dosage in the first place. Christian Bale Batman. I don't know. There's a couple different Batmans. I don't know which one that is. Yeah, like the last Avengers movie is when things started getting out of control. And I liked it. I liked the Avengers movie, but there was some shit in there, like Miss Marvel should not have been in the show because she was completely, like, not miscast, but she, like, it made it feel like the other heroes, what they did didn't matter because she could have shown up out of nowhere and she didn't. She could have helped throughout the rest of the movies and she didn't up until the end because that's when she was introduced. And then almost single-handedly beat Thanos, you know. They could have beat him much earlier if she actually showed up. But I guess she had other things to do. She had to get her nails done or something, unfortunately. But one of the biggest problems with that movie. And then they had like a fucking girl power scene where all the female superheroes all just kind of like walk out and do like, you know, the chest bump thing. Fucking weird shit. Super weird. Yeah, I don't know, guys. That's where we are right now. And that's, by the way, that doesn't mean there's bad TV shows. Like I said, you can have diversity and representation, and things can be good. Raised by Wolves, I would actually say, had pretty good diversity and representation. I thought it was pretty fucking fantastic in multiple different ways, and the actors were fucking phenomenal, too. The androids are amazing. And then HBO fucking canned it. Yeah, maybe it's not even about what's good anymore. It's just literally about canceling shows that, like, an algorithm's telling you to cancel. We're in a really bad spot if shows are literally getting picked based on an algorithm. And it kind of explains some of the shit that's going on right now, but Jesus. Raised by Wolves is fantastic. If you're a movie critic and you really enjoy in-depth stuff, you definitely would love Raised by Wolves. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. I was really looking forward to season 3. It's one of the very few shows that I look forward to, along with Witcher. And they canceled Raised by Wolves, so yeah, that's just the way that is. HBO is one of the companies that generally is really good with entertainment. For the most part, they've been relatively good. The recent last couple years, they've definitely shit the bed. It's turned into a lot of propaganda, political bullshit, woke bullshit, message, things like that, and it's generally become relatively unwatchable. And then they don't really have like a major... HBO doesn't really have a major IP anymore. It was Game of Thrones for a long time, right? And that really kind of tipped off the industry to how profitable fantasy could be. And then they shit the bed on that, and then they don't really have like a running TV show right now. Max was HBO. Westworld. Westworld is absolutely terrible, though. Westworld Season 1 was very good. Season 2 was alright. Season 3 had no idea what the fuck he was doing. Succession's alright. I watched that, too. But this is basically very circular. You know exactly what's going to happen, and they keep playing it over and over again. In the first... I think I was thinking about looking at Gilded Age. This is about people that are like super rich again. Virgin Brook family, as well as those faced by the upper middle class, black upper class, domestic workers tend to their needs. You know. This is another one. I think the other. Hey, let's talk about kind of like the slavery time period. They have another one of those. Called. A series I can watch. It's literally just like beating you over the head about past events, and you should feel bad for him, despite the fact that no one's alive that actually was part of it. Not Roots. What was the name of it? Evers, I believe, is a shitty fantasy show. Series in Victorian London follows a group of people, mostly women, known as the Touched, who suddenly manifest abnormal abilities, yeah. Basically, female empowerment. Hey, look at these women, they're super strong. Let's write something. There's Barry. Fuck Barry. Season 1 and 2 was alright. And then Season 3. Horrible. It's renewed? What? I thought it was done. Yeah, Barry got really... White Lotus is also pretty terrible. White Lotus was supposed to be a drama, and it's not. There's nothing dramatic about it. Another series where they just talk about politics constantly. I watched it, and it was pretty fucking terrible. There's, like, no comedy in it. I think I finished airing. I don't remember the name of it. Finished airing either this year or last year. Good. I guess there is House of the Dragon coming up. Take a peek at that and see if it's good. Mainly because I like Game of Thrones up until Season 8, and Season 7 was even We'll see. Okay. Enough of this, guys. Let's take a look at the Reddits, and then we're going to play some of the dibs. Enough of this, guys. What do we got on the Reddits tonight? Also, it is humid as fuck right now. AMD Reddit's... Ah! B-Frames finally added OBS for AMD, yeah, about a month ago. This is old. Oh, this is finally added to OBS. So there was a special branch of OBS that you have to download with support for VCE, I believe it is, the AMD encoder. And I think the person that was supporting it finally stopped. It was something to do with politics. Talked about this. Good. Hopefully there'll be an update in VCE for their next GPU. But, we'll see. They haven't had a VCE update in a long time. Where NVIDIA's last one was in the 2000 series. 3000 series didn't change anything with NVENC. Performance in Skyrim with SMT on versus off. Okay. Next day strike, we turn SMD off, but I wasn't expecting much. Lo and behold, 155 FPS in 1%, 40s. In the 40s to 110 FPS with 1% in 90s. Project Lasso. Restrict the game's core if does process lasso does. $800X versus 5800X 3D. Wait for those 3D crash processors, guys. Why would you wait for this fall? Some people really have like a hole burning in their pocket when they need to upgrade. And putting aside the fact that some people like literally like they don't have an option because their system broke, right? 100% would just wait or just play on a shitty system until it comes out and just wait with it, because it's not worth getting a processor like 3 months, maybe 2 months or 3 months away. 2 months away from launch, maybe even less than that, a month. Just to have it basically superseded. And whatever processor you're looking at, get a lot cheaper. Can't wait for the 3D cache, guys. 7000 series with a 3D cache. If you guys know what the 3D cache is, it definitely helps with 0.1%, 1%, mainly your stuttering and micro stuttering. 0.1% frame time. Leaks, okay. Talking about the leaks, okay. Like fucking Apple, where they're just like, DVD leaks is totally just run by a BHVR. It feels like they're just like leaking out information to drive hype before it launches, like Apple does with their products, or used to do. Apple just feels like they're just turning random shit out each year and people just buy it because they're Apple enthusiasts. And it's a status symbol. Surprise. Nothing with Hope is hilarious. It could very well be this guy's cheating too on top of it. This doesn't look like 107. This looks like this guy's even faster than that. Pretty sure that guy's cheating. So he has Hope, and he's probably like running like 110 or 111. There's almost no speed difference. Good. Like watching widows on Overwatch brag about their headbot, their aimbots. Good. Okay. Alrighty, guys, I'm going to use the bathroom real quick here, and then we're going to play some of the It's kind of late here. That'll happen. Unexpected takes so long after watching the... Mainly it was the Critical Drinkers. We watched, what, Harder in Box, and then Critical Drinker was actually what took so much time. Alright guys, I'm gonna wash my coffee cup up. I'll be right back, and we'll play some Gamaz. Alrighty, guys. Sorry about that. I need to go shopping. I need to do a lot of things right now. That'll happen. Alrighty, though. Let's move on to the dips, guys. Yeah. Off we go. Almost out of soda. Alrighty. Always struck me as weird, the flag in the background. Definitely developers, like, there's no physics there. Not talking about, like, good physics, but, like, a flag for it to, like, fly straight out like that. I would have to have a serious blast of wind going at it. It doesn't. You can see that based on the particles. They're slowly lulling by. Ready? How many games we gonna get tonight, guys? Good. Good. Let's see what we get, guys. Oh. Streamer lobby, but they don't. Press name. Fake streamers, check. Mm-hmm. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Hmm. And a grass name. And a dodge. Alright. Alrighty. See how our first game goes, guys. Queue's a little bit long. It's not super horrible. That's like a minute and a half. 2 minutes. Skip to game 2. Buck, a flan, and a brown. Apparently, I just got hit with a hate speech for a comment on Facebook where I talk about Deep Space Nine, talking about Cisco, and making a comparison to Star Wars. Deep Space Nine, very good, by the way. One of the better Star Treks. Mentioning that Cisco spits milk all over himself. Like white trash that doesn't care about himself anymore. About anything anymore. In reference to what they did to Springer Cuckdoors. In reference to what they did to Luke in Rise of the Skywalker, I think it is. Make this shit up. It's I've been hit 3 times. I've never been actioned, by the way, up until this year. Hit 3 times, specifically relating to Star Wars and Star Trek IP. Only those 2. Specifically Star Wars with Mandalorian. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Double back. We saw the chick on the right just now. That's probably David. Fighting. Mm-hmm. What? The fuck was that? How the fuck did I just get aim assisted into the wall? What the fuck was that? Okay. See. Let's go over here. Alright, my dude. White trash hate speech? It's not white. That's a fucking idiom. What? Here he is. Referencing once again Star Wars. Anything relating to Star Wars is just what it turns into. Hilarious. Hang on to our zombie here for a little bit. Huh. So why I suppose you think... the zombie was hitting the other chick and not hitting her? Got some weird shit going on in this game, guys. Ambitious, I should have just secured it. This is gone. There's something really wonky going on with my aim assist right now. Get over right away. It was a sus one. A locker? What the fuck was that? Okay, bye. It was gonna come back. David is fast once again. That's one of the reasons I wasn't chasing him. It's gonna take a while. Aggression. Oh, It was using a speed hack, but not super fast. It says like a 106. Knew where the zombie was to take that. Trying to go to a dead spot. Okay. Okay. Done. Aaron over here. I'm gonna chase this guy. She's gonna finish the gen. We're gonna Noed. Very fast. They're messing with my aim assist right now too. That doesn't help things. Drop. Double back. Yep. We know where he is. He has saved the best, so we're gonna go for the other guy. Object. She immediately hid. Heat lobby, guys. Pick up. Again, cheat lobby, guys. Very fast. That guy's 100% speed hacking. Go to the door yet? Yes, she did. She's right here. Terrible. The other guy now. Gun on handle. Not very good. I don't think she is going to Unbreakable. Push outside in zone. Can't make it. Alright. Broke my zombies. Get the fuck out here. Now wait for 4% some deliverance. What we're probably going to end up doing is if he 4% with OTR. Okay. What we're going to end up doing is if he 4% with OTR. Was we were just going to wait and zone instead. Probably went to comp corners. Nope. She's going to try and get me to open the handle, which I'm not going to do. Actually, let's bleed out David. We're just going to make sure. These guys, I mentioned before, this is a cheat lobby, so we're just going to wait. And bleed out David just to make sure he doesn't get hatched. Oh, she has Unbreakable. She would have popped it before 100%. And we have a hook literally right here, so then it doesn't matter that I dropped her and traveled a little bit. We'll still be fine. Maybe she has Soul Guard? That'd be really weird if she had Soul Guard. That might have been an exponential totem we popped earlier. Explain why she didn't get up, but that still should have been enough time for Soul Guard. Don't think Cloud was part of it. Definitely fucking with my aim assist, though. Stuff. Really high score considering she didn't do anything. He clouded at all. Super high score. Add OTR. We saw that. Mossing with my aim assist though. Had DS. Didn't buy him any time. Oh, and Kindred. Very weird. Yeah. Kindred's not a very common perk anymore. I'm not sure why we're seeing 3 of them in the same match. Not that it's a bad perk. It's good for solos. Guys are right on top of the gens too for Solo Squad. 3 of these guys were in the match. 1 was a late join, which I believe was this guy. Okay. Okay. So, if you guys didn't know, Facebook uses an automated algorithm now in order to figure out what is uncouth behavior, and you can't actually have your you can't have your post reviewed by an actual human because they quote that COVID-19 is hurting them. Still. So they fired a bunch of people because of COVID-19 and then they just never rehired them and they kept the excuse from COVID-19. Fun. Well, there's that again. This game. Didn't even take us so long to kill the first person. Agro zombies. Made multiple VAC bans on record. Oh, it's a fake TTV. Surprise, guys. Multiple VAC bans on record. We're not playing that. Lovely name, by the way. I guess because it has the name White in it? I guess, White Bleep, White Tra, that one is now racist. Because it refers to white people, specifically lower-end white people. That's what you call people that just don't give a shit about what they do. Like people that have no care in the world about what they're actually doing. Unrelated to social economic status. It's just people that literally don't care about life. Like how people perceive them. Jesus Christ. Apparently I'm not the only one. There's Googles of this now. So this is a 4-man for sure. Talking to myself, guys. Good, next game. Can't tell if I'm banned or what. Telling me. I think they just removed my comment. Welcome to life. By the way, Cisco is black. Cisco is a captain of DS9, or the... I don't know if they called him a captain of Deep Space Nine. That's a black guy. So it doesn't really... doesn't apply to him. Specifically to race. It's just what Luke did in Return of the Skywalker. Where, like, literally has no self-control. Just tore down his character. One of the most comparable, accurate comparisons I could use. Not specifically that they did that to Cisco, but there's plans in Kurt's Trek to go back to Deep Space Nine, and it's gonna be fucking terrible. It's gonna be horrible. Deep Space Nine, once again, is one of the best versions of Star Trek, in my personal opinion. I think in most people's opinion. One of the best versions of Star Trek. Well, that sucks. Good. It's not the first time that's happened. I got criticized for inciting violence. For inciting violence when I was talking about the Mandalorian... No, not Book of Boba Fett, where they had Mando and Bubba in the street just getting shot at constantly, and apparently that flagged me somehow, automatically flagged me. Because apparently it thought I was talking about real people. And immediately you would know, as basically a review, was talking about one of the stupid things that Mando and Bubba were doing, because they're trained bodyguards, right? Trained mercenaries, and they just like hopped into the middle of the street and just started flailing their arms around like this while getting shot, even though they have jetpacks and shit sitting on top of the roof. Apparently, I was instigating violence with that by talking about it. And if you were a remotely sentient human, you could immediately know what I was talking about and know that it wasn't inciting violence in any way, shape, or form. This is the world we live in now, guys. Welcome to censorship. And it's not even censorship from other human beings that are actually making a judgment call on you. It's censorship from robots. This is an all-globe lobby that looks sus as shit. I think we're gonna play it, though. Not Return of the Jedi. What was the name? Star Wars films. This is the second one. Second new one, that is.